Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is another Roma Press live stream. Welcome, everybody. We are going to wait a bit so that more people can come in. This is going to be a live stream dedicated to previewing the Derby della Capitale against Lazio, which takes place tomorrow, Sunday, in the evening. So Roma will face off against Lazio for the second time this season after winning the first leg 2-0. So I just wanted to welcome everybody again in this live stream. Thank you so much for being here, for enjoying them, for giving me the kind of feedback that everybody wants to get whenever whenever one dips their toe in the world of streaming. So thank you so much for being here with me, Dan Zvezda, Amazing Vincent, Joron. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate the support. If you are new to this channel, obviously, give this video a like so that more people can join us, and consider subscribing so that you can get notified whenever I stream or whenever we upload a new video episode of the podcast, which is not going to happen tomorrow either. As I mentioned a couple of times on here, and I've let also the patrons know, John is going through a bit of a medical emergency. So it's this is the situation that we're dealing with, and that is the reason why there haven't been any new podcast episodes in the last weeks, because I feel strongly about doing the podcast with John, whereas I prefer to do these videos on my own so that you can also participate. I can react. This is becomes a two-way channel. I think there is probably nothing worse than a guy talking to himself on a podcast. To listen to in the long run. So let's try and make the best of these live streams as we wait for John to get back in action. In the meantime, obviously, I just wanted to once again thank everybody for their understanding and support during this time. I've received a lot of messages, and I appreciate them wholeheartedly. Buonasera, il carceriere di Mauri. And we already got people making predictions. Top four is officially gone with Juve winning 2-0 against Lecce. What a disappointment. It's always the damn beginning of the season that ruins us so bad. Hopefully, at least sixth place. Thank you so much for the best wishes to John. We still wish the very best for John. Jerome, thank you so much. I always relay these thoughts to him and his family. So it's very kindly appreciated. Yes, we are here, obviously, on the eve of a derby that is crucial. But unfortunately, we also have to take into account what the other teams are doing. Um, Juve bouncing back with Igor Tudor was predictable because Juve, like Roma, always had the goods. They just didn't gel properly with Thiago Motta. It was not going the way they had intended last summer, so it was predictable enough for them to get back into a positive run. And obviously, Lecce, not exactly the kind of opponent that will try and put up a fight this late in the year. Then Vesda, hey Andy, just watched the Godfather series. Should I watch the third one? Well, that's a that's a controversial question, depending on who you ask. I know that John would always say no to that question, that you shouldn't watch the third Godfather, but I actually like it. I like the campiness of it. I like the outrageous performances in it. I just like the drama. I think it's a very fitting way to end the story. It is very reflective of the times that it was filmed in. It's 1990. It's not the 70s anymore. That movie is made in 1990, and it's very accurate for its time. You got Andy Garcia, who's a protagonist, which hasn't happened since. You got Eli Wallach. You got Joe Montana, coming from the Chicago theater school and being a bit all over the place. And then you got Sofia Coppola trying her best to act, not really working. But I find it a beautiful, fascinating mess. So hey Andy, when are you rejoining the best group chat in the world? AP, I don't know. It's done me a lot of good mentally to be a bit away, I must say. There's been also a lot of work around Roma Press, so the absence from the group chat has helped me to focus on a lot of things. I've also managed to focus and continue to write on my own stuff, so that's also good, because that's also something I care about, and to put that energy into that, it did me a lot of good. So let's see what the end of the season brings, and perhaps I'll be back, who knows. but uh but in the meantime, I obviously appreciate and treasure every every interaction with the patron. I've received so many messages recently. Even today, I got some really nice messages from our individual patrons. If you'd like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/Roma Press, and you can get a lot of cool additional episodes and content. And I'm trying to, right now with John out of action, I'm trying to run the whole ship. So let's see if I can keep it steady. In the meantime, absolutely, we have a firecracker of a match with Juve winning. As Angel said, it takes a bit of the edge off, but the derby is the derby. The derby, you don't even have to really prepare it. The derby, you always know what's happening. I found it so funny today when Marco Baroni, the coach of the Bianco Celesti, said in the press conference, I don't think historically we've ever had a derby where we play so close to a European fixture, referring to Lazio's loss to Bodo. Well, guess what? It's happened many, many times. It's happened to Roma, especially because, hey, guess what? By the end, by this point in the season, Lazio were usually out of European competitions. Roma, in the meantime, were always involved, whether it was the Conference League or the Europa League. Mind you, 2022, Roma play against Vitesse, and then a couple of days later, they play the Derby. In 2023, they play against Real Sociedad. They draw 0-0. They play the Derby. So it's happened. It's happened in the past. Roma have been in situations where they've had to try and muster the necessary energy to face Lazio in a crucial stretch of the season. Sometimes it worked out for them, sometimes it did not, but this is certainly not the first time one of the two teams is involved in another competition at the same time. Amazing Vincent, Atalanta and or Bologna will drop points, so we must win to stay in contention for top four. Again, I think I don't want to be the pessimist. I don't want to look at the glass, speaking of glass, half empty. I want to, but I need to be honest in the way I felt when Roma drew against Juve, and Lazio won against Atalanta. I must say, we've been in these situations before, and the feeling of powerlessness crept into me, because that's what we felt like for so many years. When this part of the season came about, we felt powerless. We felt that we were watching a team play the way we expected them to play. I'm not saying that Roma are making the same mistakes as they did in the past. The mistakes came at the start of the season. The mistakes came in the first 3 months of the season. Sure. Right now, Roma have been on an unbelievable run. All things considered, they've done great things under Ranieri. And I said it from the get go, no matter what happens, no matter how this campaign ends, I'm forever grateful to Claudio Ranieri for embracing this challenge, for taking on this difficult mission, and for actually delivering the goods, and giving us a team that feels like a team, no matter the points they collect. But at the same time, when they dropped those points against Juve and Lazio won against Atalanta quite unexpectedly, I felt disappointed. I felt a bit of that pain coming back from previous years where you realize that, hey, you know what? It does not depend just on you. Roma, like many other teams, obviously, in this situation, cannot afford to make mistakes. Usually, you would not consider a draw against Juventus a mistake. This time around, it does feel like a mistake. It does feel like a false step, a misstep. Same way, same discussion that we can bring forth about tomorrow, the derby. The derby, again, it's a match that, hey, you got two teams competing in a heated rivalry. It's normal to drop point. It happens. At the same time, look at the schedule, look at the number of games left to be played. You cannot make those mistakes. You cannot make those false steps. You have to take the situation, and try and make the best of it, because exactly, you're looking at Juve and they're running away with it, and that's painful. That's a reminder that, yeah, you should always be on top of things. You should never let 3 months in a season go by, 12 games with Juric, and not really realize what the hell's going on. Because those 12 games with Juric felt like the club was losing a handle on its pulse, like not really getting the situation that they were in. It felt almost like Roma were prey to some invisible force. They were being dragged all over the place, regardless of the team they were facing. And and those are the mistakes you pay at this point in time. So, um, Lazio losing that hard is something amazing for Roma. This is a season where Lazio hopes for a Europa final. Do you think so, Jaron? I actually, I don't know. I don't know if Lazio ever think in those terms. I doubt that Baroni and Lotito prioritize Europa League over Serie A. So I don't know how bad that loss against Bodo in the first leg hurt them. It always seems to me like Lotito, like anyone who represents Lazio, approaches these Europe matches as some kind of burden, as something that they have to go through the motions. That that they're forced to compete in these useless competitions, and they very often prefer to focus on the league. So I'm not sure. Um, Absolutely, says Amazing Vincent. Top four is not an expectations, but we can dream. Yeah, it's like that. I mean, uh, I guess top four was an expectation when the team was getting out of that slump with Ranieri, when the team was really getting it on, and when they won against Lazio in the first leg, you could feel this team take on and dream and start to dream, but dream realistically, because everybody was rolling. Everybody, you had Paulo Dybala, you had Mats Hummels playing out of this world. It felt like, okay, the Avengers have come. This is what we're gonna do. This is and this is our plan, and we're gonna realize it. But obviously, things happen. Things happen, and Paulo Dybala gets injured. He's out for the season. Things happen, and Mats Hummels is not that important of a player to the team anymore. And regardless, I'm not addressing specifically those instances. I'm just saying that we come to this derby with a completely different view of this team, of the season overall, and the objectives that lie ahead of us. Because top four would be nice, but let's face it, when Claudio Ranieri came, we were fighting not to end up in the relegation zone. So that's not something that you can just sweep under the rug. That's not something that you can just forget about. It's there. It's something that you're constantly fighting against. You're climbing your way out of a hole that you dug yourself. yourself, the team that did not react in time, the team that did not know how to fight when they should have known. Because again, for me, I'm sorry that I keep coming back to this, but let the record show that this team was unprepared, even with De Rossi at the helm, which is what is to me even more shocking than what happened with Juric. For the team not to be ready at the start of the season with a coach that had done brilliantly up to that point, who had exceeded expectations in the previous season, to start the new season and have the sense that this team has no idea what they're doing, well, that is definitely something you end up paying for in April, in May. It's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. It happens. It's bound to catch up to you. Um, that was always going to be difficult, borderline impossible for Roma to be able to just completely sweep those 3 months under the rug. No, that's not how it works. Football, like many things in life, has a way of catching up to you. You will have to pay for it. It's simple as that. Lazio, on the other hand, did a much better job finding the level of consistency that was needed to find themselves in the position that they are in right now. That doesn't mean that their season has been flawless, but I do think that Baroni, given his background, given the fact that he was coaching Hellas Verona, given the expectations for him, for the squad after that major overhaul in the summer with so many important players leaving Lazio, I think the Biancocelesti have done really well this season. So they've had a much more steady trajectory than Roma. At the same time, hey, look at us, look at them. There's not much difference right now, and that's because of the wonderful work that Claudio Ranieri carried out. But it does not mean that tomorrow we go in as favorites. Baroni has obviously, as any coach would in his position, said that Roma are in the last 15 games. They're the best team in the league, together with Inter. Blah 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 blah. But we all know that the derby has nothing to do with any of the games that we've played in recent weeks. Finishing in any of the European spots, Joe says, by season's end is considered a miracle to me, considering where we were before Ranieri came and healed our players and our fans. Grazie, Claudio, says Joe. Joe, I agree with you. I agree with you. That sentiment, I think, is quite it's felt by everybody in this chat, I believe, because again, regardless of what happens, Claudio Ranieri is a hero. Claudio Ranieri should have a monument erected in his name, because really there is nobody that would have embraced this job the way he did, as as he was retired. He was sitting watching TV, probably with his slippers on, when he got the call, and he did not hesitate. So I can only be grateful to him. I don't care what happens at the end of the season. I'm grateful to Claudio. Asking Claudio Ranieri to get top four is like asking penguins to fly. Yeah. Come on, guys. The man is 73, The man is 73, and he's walking into a derby at the Stadio Olimpico with packed audience, people chanting. I mean, think about that. 73. What you'd wish you could experience those things at 73. So I know that he's been very outspoken about his willingness to retire, but man, he must enjoy the hell out of it. Imagine tomorrow night he gets to go home to his wife in Testaccio, wherever he lives, and being like, "Yep, I was just standing on the sidelines coaching Roma play in the derby." Like, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen to too many people. Good for him. If we beat Lazio, do we have decent chances at top four? Says Aaron. Aaron, I mean, listen, anything goes. These are the last 7 games of the season, so anything goes. Obviously, if you beat Lazio, you're in a much better position than if you were to lose or draw. I know that sounds obvious, but at this point in the season, anything goes. You'll take anything. If you get if you get those 3 points, you take them, and you better get ready for the next games. You don't even have time to consider that. You don't have time to even consider what's going on with Lazio. Lazio will have Castellanos back. Great. Okay. Does that change anything? Nope. Is Lazio preparing some master plan how to confront Roma with Dovbik and Eldor Shomurodov potentially starting? Because that is a concrete possibility according to a lot of Italian media. No, it's a this is a match that is prepared by itself. This is a match that both teams need to win at all costs if they want to have exactly hope for top four. So there's not much to say in terms of what goes into these preparations. Roma are thinking of deploying Pellegrini from the first minute, according to a lot of reports from today, with him acting behind Dovbik and Shomurodov. Though I do not know if Ranieri will settle on Shomurodov starting. He's been pretty hesitant in his recent press conferences, talking about Shomurodov very positively, but he's always spoken of him as a force off the bench. That this is a guy who brings you that kind of energy boost that you crave in the second half, and I'm not sure if he's ready to sacrifice that for by including him in the lineup and depriving himself of an attacking player off the bench. I just don't think that he's got it in him to make this change in the derby. Maybe Hummels did us a favor against Athletic. If we were still in Europe, there is no way Roma would fight both competitions. Well, of course, and I mean, as soon as it happened, that's what we said. You know, I said it from the beginning that we find ourselves in an unprecedented position. I mean, we find ourselves in for the first time in 5 years in a situation where, yes, we are in March and we're playing one game per week. That was completely new to this team. For guys like Mancini, Pellegrini, Cristante, this was totally new. So absolutely, it could be seen as an advantage, and yet at the same time, is it an advantage to always be thought of as the clear favorite week in, week out? That also puts a lot of pressure. So I don't know. It really depends on what kind of team Roma is. I guess we'll have to find out in the derby. Greetings from Indiana. Our good friend Duncan just got back from shooting hoops. Forza Roma Lazio. Duncan, thank you so much. Hoosiers. um, Andy, who is our biggest signing this summer? With the departure of Cristante and Pellegrini, who do we have our eye on? Um, I don't know if we can talk about biggest signing going into the summer. There is obviously mention of Cristante and Pellegrini leaving the club. Both players have been linked with an exit. Both players were very close to an exit in January. Both players seem to have run their course in the team. Both players are not exactly popular with the fan base. So, and both players have agents who are working overtime to get them out. Both Cristante has Giuseppe Rizzo. He's the agent of Mancini. He's the agent of Juric. And Pellegrini's agent is another fella who is a complicated character who has tried to get him to move. And I do believe personally that it's going to happen this summer. But are we talking about biggest signings to replace them? I haven't seen any names that would grant that label. Roma seem to be focusing a lot on younger players. There's a lot of links with younger players, including guys in Serie A. But for midfielders specifically, there's been a lot of names mentioned from Liga. Obviously, that's Florent Ghisolfi's bread and butter. That's his area of expertise, Liga, France. So I guess we will not be seeing a lot of reports with 30 40 million euro figure. I don't think that's going to be Roma's philosophy this summer. It's been stated time and time again by Ranieri that the club will have to go back to the basics, work with young players, and try to try to incorporate those financial fair play constraints into their operations on the market. It's not going to be one of those summers where you can go around and splash cash. It's Roma will be operating under much tougher, much more restrictive constraints. I just randomly want to say how well you're doing these live stream, Andy. Oh, thank you so much, Jeroen. 2 3 weeks ago there were 9 people watching, now more than 20. Jeroen, it's been it's thank you so much. That's very kind of you. I appreciate the support. As always, if you give a thumbs up to this video, there's more likely that more people will join. um, I know that these live streams used to be very popular when I would do them more regularly, so perhaps that's also a reason. When I used to do them more regularly, we would have about 80 people sometimes, so that was very fun. I remember the first live stream was when Romelu Lukaku joined Roma. It was about over 100 people. So thank you so much, Jerome, for the kind words. I appreciate it. Another center back of quality is needed for next year. Duncan, that's what Roma are looking for. There's been a lot of names. There's been the fella from Augsburg. There's the guy from Las Palmas. There's a lot of names out there, but right now I do think a lot of the media are navigating a bit based on what Roma were trying to do in January. There is a lot of names that are being recycled. Someone like Lorenzo Lucca. Oh my God, this guy for the attack. He's being linked with Roma time and time again. Now Andrea Pinamonti as well. That's another name that we saw in January. Roma will be looking definitely to reinforce basically every area of the pitch, because as you say, we are talking about Cristante, Pellegrini potentially leaving. We're talking about Hummels retiring. Who knows what will happen to Eldor Shomurodov now that Eldor Shomurodov, King Eldor, has renewed his contract, because Shomurodov had 1 year left on his contract. He renews for another year, which means his current deal with Roma will expire in 2027. That's a big reward. That's also an important sign. Whether that is a sign of Shomurodov staying on at Roma, or Roma extending his contract in order to have more leverage on the price tag this summer. If Shomurodov were to push to leave the club, well, that's a whole other matter. But that's also something that we have to think about. Are Roma going to go out of their way and find another backup striker? Will they settle for this duo, for Dovbyk and Shomurodov? That's an interesting point. Nobody saw this coming. It was Filippo Biafora of Il Tempo who reported it, that Roma reached this agreement with Shomurodov, who's been lights out since that move to Venezia fell through this January, with Ranieri deciding against him moving. Shomurodov has done exactly what a backup striker should do. He's done something that we haven't seen probably since Borja Mayoral. So he's been an incredible force, and I really wish him to end this season with Roma in the best of ways. This is a guy that deserves what he's getting right now, because he struggled a lot, and there was a lot of pressure on him coming in with Mourinho at the helm, and then sort of not getting the shot that he thought he would deserve after that move from Genoa, with Tammy Abraham finding his form and Shomurodov being basically demoted to the bench. It was not easy for Shomurodov. There were no expectations for him to have any sort of meaningful impact this year, and yet here he is. He's got 6 goals to his name, so good on him. Good on Shomurodov. Do you think Enzo Leffe will go back to Roma with Sunderland maybe coming to the Premier League? No, if Sunderland are promoted to the Premier League, they have an obligation to buy Enzo Leffe. That's why every Roma related website is monitoring his progress at Sunderland, and Sunderland's progress also, because if they get promoted to the Premier League, Enzo Leffe will be bought. And I guess that's what Roma also want. Roma want a player who is happy, and he's not going to be happy here. He's not getting the shot that he deserved. So, Mike, first off, Andy, you're doing a great job in John's absence, brother. Thank you so much, Mike. Of course, the dynamic between the two of you is missed, but this live stream format has been fun. I know. Tell me about it. I'm. I mean, there is no way. We we when John and I started to record together, that was 7 years ago. You do something for 7 years together, it's bound to mean something. So I'm glad that it means also a lot to other people, and that people enjoyed our dynamic. I hope to resume that sooner rather than later, because I also miss it. So thank you so much, Mike. That's very kind of you. How's John doing? Did you give an update? We miss him. Is he coming back soon? There are details that I can't divulge. As I say, he's dealing with a prolonged medical emergency, and in these cases it's always tricky to determine when someone is fit enough to be back in action. In the meantime, again, I'm in contact with him and his family, so trying to keep everything in check. So bear with me, and we will see how this goes. I think Baldanzi will permanently take the role of Pellegrini if he leaves. Also, Cristante has been a great servant to the club. He isn't perfect, but he gives everything, and that's good enough for me. Thank you. Finally, someone someone here providing some support for Cristante, who seems to have just a number of haters, no no fans, and yet here we have someone finally standing up for him. Because, yeah, I mean, Cristante again, guys. Cristante was this close to leaving Roma in January. He did not seem like he was going to come back from that injury, which he suffered against Atalanta. He was out for a month and a half, which was the first time Cristante seems to have missed so much time ever in his career, especially at Roma. But I do think his time has come. He's been very loyal. He's played basically everywhere on the pitch where you needed him, good or bad, whatever. He's been there. He's been there. He's seen a lot of shit with Roma. Some may argue that he's been part of the reason why Roma did not function as well as they should have, especially in the midfield. But I mean, you don't stay in a club for so long, you know, by coincidence. So there has to be something. I know that people struggle to see that in him, but if Ranieri tells me he's a complete midfielder, if Mourinho relies on him, if De Rossi sees that in him as well, then I guess there is something. I guess there is something that us mere mortals cannot comprehend. If Roma is smart with their investments over the next few years, how many years do you think it will be before Roma are legitimate Scudetto contenders? Aaron, that's an interesting question. I think right now Roma are smart, and that this all started with Thiago Pinto. I really, again, I want to give him flowers, because Thiago Pinto was able to do a lot with very little, and the fact that we are able to breathe, and the fact that we were able to sign so many important players this summer, and able to also give the kind of contracts that we gave to guys like Dovbyk and Manu Kone is in large part thanks to the work done by Thiago Pinto, who cleared the house. He was the one who got rid of a lot of dead weight, which was killing Roma's books. So that's number one. So I think the smart investments are already underway. Whether you like some names or not, the way Roma have been signing players has been particularly smart in recent times, and there is constantly a thought of the future ahead. We signed Baldanzi, we signed Kone to long-term contracts that are aiming for Roma to keep these guys for as long as possible. That's the same thing with Miles Viar. That's what Roma are working with. They want to give him a contract until 2029. So Roma are already projected towards the future. You could argue that, I'm not saying legitimate Scudetto contenders, but it doesn't take much to come up with smart investments. It doesn't take much also to build consistency when you have smart investments. Think of Bologna, think of Atalanta. Bologna are building consistently off of those smart investments. Not for nothing, they have Sartori, who also worked at Atalanta. So you always need the skeleton, the structure, the organizational structure is very important. Right now, Roma are without a CEO and a long-term manager, so you have to have those guys first in, so that then you can start laying out the future. But I do think that, in terms of the financial landscape that Roma are navigating, they've done pretty well. They've already shown sort of the blueprint of what they will try and do in the next years. Taking a year off from European play may be the best scenario, says Mike. Concentrating on Serie A in 25-26 allows this team to improve, stay fit, and possibly deserve a top four spot in 26-27. Yeah, Mike, it's always a question of the finances. It's always a question of, can you afford to miss out on Europe? So many times we've had these debates in recent years. We've always ended up in some European competition, whether you like it or not. We see that with Napoli, obviously it helps. It helps to have more time to prepare, but Napoli can't take the financial hit of missing out on Europe. Roma, I don't know. I don't know. It's a tough situation to be in, and it's something that you always have to consider. Can you afford it? Can you afford it? That's the question. Let's be honest. Roma are not a top four club, current state. With the way this season started, I'm just thinking we are even in this position to discuss possible European play. I actually would say that Roma are a top four club, current state. The first 3 months are a complete anomaly to me. It's something that does not reflect the quality of the squad. But I do think that on paper, this is a team that is prepared to fight for top four. So especially given the other teams involved in the race, Roma definitely have the goods. The fact that they have to claw their way to this, to be anywhere near this objective, is a testament to how detrimental not being prepared to start the season is. Because that, again, I want to stress this so much. It's not even about those 12 games with Juric. I see a lot of a lot of people pointing to that as the team's main fault. Those 12 games under Juric. Sure, horrible, horrible, all-time horrible. But guys, we had the worst start to the league since 1974, I believe, for a reason. That reason was we were unprepared when the season kicked off. We were completely unprepared, starting with Cagliari, with the loss to Empoli on the second match day, draw to Juve, draw to Genoa. We looked completely flat and helpless. So that's something that's on the team, that's on the manager to begin with the season. So again, I want to reiterate that it's not just Juric. It's everything that happened between the end of last season and the start of this season. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I think Selic is a good option to keep as a backup center back. Well, let's see what happens with Selic. He will definitely want more playing time, and I don't know. I mean, he's done fairly well, so you may also end up getting some offers, and in that case, I don't think that this is a player that Roma will hesitate to give up. I agree, Mike, but to be honest, what is a top four club in the current Serie A? It switches every year. Absolutely, Jeroen. That's what I mean. It's, you look at other teams and you look at Roma and you think to yourself, sure, because it makes sense, except for Inter and Napoli that are miles ahead of everybody, and then Atalanta, who are also struggling right now, but in the sense that I'm not saying it's all level, but uh, give me Juve, Roma on paper, give me Lazio and Fiorentina and Bologna, and you're bound to find a lot of similarities. So Roma should be in the conversation. It's not so far-fetched. Lefe would actually fill the Cristante position if he leaves. We are trying to be smart with money. So why buy an asset we already have? Well, that again depends on what Lefe wants, on also what Lefe can do in this context. Roma were just not ready to give Lefe what he wanted. It's as simple as that. Lefe wanted to play. Lefebvre wanted to be a starter. He was not getting that at Roma, especially if you consider how well Paredes and Manu Kone were working off of each other, and he wasn't going to change that. Unfortunately, I am sorry to see it, because I was sorry to see him go. I consider that a disappointing failed experiment. But that's the case. If Sutherland get promoted to the championship, the obligation kicks in. If not, Lefebvre comes back to Roma, and they have to figure out something. Also, we should sell all of our players outside of Italy. No more, no more Purguinho. Yeah, that's always a good idea, because I think this season we broke the number of goals scored by former players. I mean, Eduardo Bove, Romelu Lukaku, Tammy Abraham. God knows someone else. I forget, but yeah, it's just too much. It's too much. Stop. No more. Financial fair play is a farce. Some teams abide by it, others don't. Yeah, I mean, Roma need Europe for the money. It's always like that. It's always like that. It's the oldest story in the book. I'm tired of it. We're all tired of it. But Roma signed a settlement agreement, so they have to respect it. Hey Andy, thanks for doing these live streams. Of course, Vic. Question: what's the status with Miles VR contract negotiations? Well, Vic, I can only tell you what we've been hearing lately, what the player has also said. Miles VR has said that he wants to stay at Roma, that barring any surprises, that's what he wants. That's what his family wants. He's comfortable. He is happy. Um, he just, this is, in here, he became important. So I guess that's his priority. The guy earns less than €1 million. That's not fair. Roma need to reward him for his performances, for keeping the team afloat, for just being all around brilliant, one of the best goalkeepers in Serie A and in Europe this year. Um, at the same time, Roma are only willing to go so far with their proposal. I don't know. There are reports of Sviar asking for €4 million. I don't even think that's the problem. The issue would be if Sviar wanted to have a release clause inserted in his new contract. Now that's a problem, and that's something that I think is always complicated. If this situation isn't resolved by the end of the season, it's because of that, because there is an issue with the release clause. If that's something that they're talking about, that will take a long time. Release clause is always a very delicate topic, because the player's entourage always wants to have the release clause set low enough so that more teams can come forward. Roma, on the other hand, will probably not want it at all, so they'll have to meet each other halfway. But the situation is, Roma want to renew him. Sviar wants to stay at Roma. I do think in the end they will find an agreement. At the same time, you have to consider that if Roma end up outside of Europe, they may have to look for someone to sell in order to generate the kind of revenue that they need to generate for financial fair play and blah blah blah. The old drill. So they will, at the end of the season, Roma will look around. They'll check their squad list. They'll check their complete roster. They'll look at all the players coming back from loan, and they will have to find someone to sacrifice. In recent years, Roma have been able to avoid sacrificing major names. Perhaps this time it will be more difficult than that. Is there a chance Serie A can get 5 spots for Champions League? We still have teams in Europe. Jerome says, I don't think that's possible this season. There were too many teams knocked out quickly so to go up in the coefficients. This season does not look good. During your lifetime, which Roma team has been your favorite to watch? Oh, man. I mean, I'm predictable enough in that I loved Claudio Ranieri's first Roma. I loved to see those guys play. I loved so many of those guys. I loved Pizarro. I loved Riese. I loved Juan. I mean, I loved Mixes. Uh, those are my guys. Those were my guys. I liked. I loved Luca Toni for those 6 months. But that also starts before that with Spalletti. I love those guys as well then, and it's just I think those years 2007, 2009, 2010, it always felt like you were watching an underdog do his thing and try and fight and also play brilliantly together. So I think those were good years. And then obviously I also liked stretches of Rudy Garcia. I liked stretches of Spalletti in his second spell. But I do look fondly back to what 14 years ago, 15. Jesus. Um, Hi Andy, what's your take on Pioli? Mm. I know. This is a controversial topic. I don't think much of Pioli. I've said it so many times on the podcast. Pioli has, to me, has always been very mediocre. I think with Milan, he got very, very lucky at times. It's just I don't, if you're looking for positives for me to list about Pioli, there is not many. I just don't have the energy for that right now. It's almost 11 o'clock at night here. I can't muster up the energy to bring forth some positives about Pioli because I do think that this guy's up and down career speaks for itself. You win the Scudetto with Milan, and your next move is what? To go to Saudi Arabia? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's what you do. Maybe if Inter wins the Champions, Lazio or Europa and Fiorentina conference, but that's a fever dream. Yeah, and I would like to not think about that dream. I got a feeling we will have to sell Indica or Sviar. Duncan, that's spot on. I mean, that's it. Will I think it will come to that? It will come to a situation where Roma will need to address a difficult sacrifice to make. I'm 22 and this is my first Ranieri experience with Roma. Absolute joy. That's fantastic, Ovetu. That's awesome. Yeah, enjoy it because really, it's not that it's not that different, in the sense that this man has always been able to exude the same feeling wherever he's been. Whether that was at Roma going up against Mourinho's Inter, or at Leicester City, or here again, you always have the feeling that this man believes in the impossible, that this man is the kind of grandfather figure that will make you jump through hoops, that this man will be there for you no matter what. And you're not alone in this sentiment. The team feels it as well. So I'm happy you're enjoying it. I'm Dutch. I got my love for Roma because of Strootman. I just loved him at Roma. Absolutely. Let's remember Strootman, youngest captain of the Dutch national team, a player who was destined for greatness, a player who could have gone on to become one of the best midfielders in the history of the sport. Unfortunately, his career was cut short, but phenomenal. Strootman, a player that if you got prime Strootman right now next to Manu Kone, are you kidding me? Is De Rossi still welcome at the Olympico? I think we need all hands on deck in the stands tomorrow. But yeah, of course, De Rossi is very much welcome to the Olympico. De Rossi right now is managing a club. He's president of Ostia Mare. He has other duties, and he's also looking for a new job. So I don't know how favorable it would be for him to go to the Olympico right now and be seen on camera, supporting the team that sacked him at the beginning of the season. This man is trying to get a job. I think he's interested also in moving abroad. So let's see what happens with De Rossi. He should get a job soon because to sit after being sacked by Roma so early on, he needs to get back into the groove of things. Totti, De Rossi, Giannini, Conte. I don't, yeah, we need all the positive energy we can for tomorrow. I'm not going to say it's a do or die situation, but I do think that everybody knows that this is a match that you have to get right, that you cannot get wrong, that this is a match that will determine the way you approach those last 6 games of the season. This is a match that will do wonders for you. It seems like we say it all the time about the derby, but it's really like that. You feel that you got wings. You feel like you're being taken to some other realm in the minutes and hours following a derby victory. That's the feeling of elation that spreads throughout the city, throughout the continent, throughout the world if you're a Roma fan. And that is priceless. That is priceless, especially in this situation. That is absolutely priceless. Roma must get a win tomorrow. I will be here tomorrow doing a live stream after the match, so I do not even want to think about doing a live stream where I'm disappointed and depressed. I want to think about doing a live stream where I'm positive, where we can all be happy and cheer for a positive result. I happily got the possibility to talk to Startman a couple of times. The love he still has for Roma is just so heartwarming. Yeah, it's Strootman, is always had an unbelievable relationship with the fans. He was always very, very close to the city, to the fans, and also he recognized that the way Roma took care of him following that injury, not many other clubs would have looked after him that way. So this is a player who will always have a special place in all of our hearts. Juve won. Let's hope Bologna and Atalanta draw. Exactly, guys. So I think I will leave it at that. That's a good way to end it. Let's hope Bologna and Atalanta draw. Let's hope that we can come together here tomorrow, gather around in this live stream, and enjoy ourselves and not talk about a negative result, but actually be happy that we got the job done. That's what I wish you all. That's what I wish for myself, because I'll have to be here. I'll have to be talking into this microphone. I'll have to be reading the comments. So I prefer to think of a positive scenario. I wish you all a pleasant rest of the day. Thank you so much for being here with me in this live stream. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. If you want to support Roma Press, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/Roma Press. That's where you can get all the extra content. Thank you so much once again for bearing with us. This is a difficult time. I am trying to handle all of it. So again, thank you for the support, for the understanding. And I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until next time, as always, Forza Roma.